We have recently got a ton of volumes asking us to bring back this video once again in 2025. And because we're a channel for the people, absolutely, Headliner Nation, here you have it. Let's start discussing which players I think you should be drafting way above their current ADP. Headliner Nation, today's video, we are breaking down the first 10 rounds of ADP data, and we're going to be discussing which players I think should be drafted above their current ADP, how far above their current ADP they should be drafted, and what players are currently being taken in front of them that you should ignore to get these guys a little bit early. And in the first round, there are 3 guys that I currently like above their current ADP. Now, I'm not listing Barkley, Bijan, Gibbs, Chase, any of the guys at the beginning of the first round because you can't really draft them over their ADP because they're all going at the beginning of the first round. But I've been getting a lot of questions about the middle and the end of the first round because I did a must-have video for running backs talking about Gibbs and Bijan specifically at the top of the first round. And I got a lot of questions after that. Kyle, what about the middle of the first round? Do you not like Derrick Henry? Do you not like Ashen-Genty? What running backs would you get if you drafted after these spots? So let me answer that for you right now. It would be these guys. Derrick Henry and Ashen-Genty are both being taken at the end of the first round. Amon-Ra St. Brown right in that area as well. If you're looking to start off with a running back and you're drafting in the middle of the first round and the big 3 are already off the board, then I'm skipping on several of the other guys to go with these players here. Now, what guys would I skip specifically for these players? Well, in the first round, I'm skipping Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua, who both have a current ADP of 9.3. I would draft Derrick Henry and Ashen-Genty over Christian McCaffrey. And it's not because I don't think Christian McCaffrey can't be a big-time player. He absolutely could finish the season as a top 5 running back in fantasy points per game. But I am not sold on the fact that Christian McCaffrey may not miss some time. And if he were to miss, let's say, 2 to 4 games, then Derrick Henry and Ashen-Genty are going to be safer throughout the season than Christian McCaffrey. And as far as Puka Nacua goes, I do have some concerns about him, and I think he's starting to fall a little bit in my rankings. He's a really good player, but Matthew Stafford's back injury is definitely something to be concerned about. And then you've got Devontae Adams there as well. Kyren Williams got paid, so you know he's still going to be utilized in the red zone quite a bit. Puka Nacua, for me, for what he's really going right now, I would rather draft Amon-Ra St. Brown before I go with Puka Nacua, knowing that that situation is probably way more stable. All right, on to round 2. And the 3 guys listed here are 3 guys that you've heard me talk about a lot this offseason. All 3 of these guys were in must-have videos just a week or 2 weeks ago. And give me some Bucky Irving, some Josh Jacobs, some Drake London, especially when their ADP is putting them more towards the back end of the second round. These are great guys to stack with some of the players that I talked about in the first round and to give you an excellent start to your fantasy team. Now, which players am I taking these guys over? Well, in the second round, Devon Achane is one of them. I like Devon Achane. I think he is a high upside player. He got rid of all of the injury concerns last year by playing a full season, but I'm no longer worried about his injury concerns. I'm worried about his quarterback. And Tua, who has missed a lot of time, if he misses more time, that offense becomes inept. Give me Jacobs and Bucky Irving, who are safe and have way more upside, especially if they play all season long. Right after that, Brian Thomas Jr., Jonathan Taylor. Now, for Brian Thomas Jr., if I'm going with somebody over him, I will go with Drake London. That's probably not a popular opinion, and I get it, and I understand why. I like Brian Thomas Jr. He was a guy that we talked about last season as a late round dart throw because he had some really nice upside. He ended up performing as a wide receiver 1. So it's got nothing to do with Brian Thomas Jr. It's got everything to do with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to command respect, and he's going to command targets in this offense. He's going to see quite a bit, even if he only plays 55-60% of the snaps on offense, he's going to be looked at while he's out there. Brian Thomas Jr. is still going to have a lot of big playability, but there is a possibility he loses a lot of volume, especially if Britton Strange gets actively involved quite a bit as well. And then as far as it goes for Jonathan Taylor, listen, I will go with Bucky Irving and Josh Jacobs over Jonathan Taylor almost every single pick. Again, I like Jonathan Taylor. He is a good back, but 50% of his offensive production came over the final few weeks of the season last year. What's the quarterback situation going to be this year? Jonathan Taylor is another guy who's been unable to stay healthy. So when you look at what Josh Jacobs did last season, when you look at what Bucky Irving did last season, when you look at the offenses that both of these guys are in, not only do they feel safer to me, but they feel like they have just as much upside and not nearly the same risk. The third round is where things get really interesting in 2025 because I'll be honest, I hate the third round. There's only one player in the third round that I absolutely love this season, and it's Kyren Williams. Not only did the guy just get paid, but he is one of the only running backs in the NFL that you can realistically lock into 17 to 20 carries per game as long as he's healthy. That's a lot of carries for a third round pick. Not only is he going to get the volume, he's going to score touchdowns as well. And even if Matthew Stafford ends up missing some time, they're still going to run the football. Maybe Kyren Williams isn't as effective as he would be if Matthew Stafford were healthy, but that doesn't mean the volume is just going to disappear. And I'll take the volume in the third round. Now, one of the reasons I'm concerned about the third round, it's because I feel like as a fantasy community, we don't really know what to do with the guys in the third round. While a lot of them present some really good upside, there's a lot of risks associated with them as well. So the third round this year is really about taking shots at some guys that, yeah, they could end up working out, but they could end up hurting you as well. So for me personally, when I look at the third round, you know what I want to do? If I can't get Kyren Williams, I'm going to start taking advantage of guys in the fourth round that I like, because there's several guys in the fourth round I think could really outperform their current ADP. But what players in the third round are being passed over a full round by other guys? I got this question a lot the other day. What about Ladd McConkey? Well, with Keenan Allen being there, I want to see how Keenan Allen looks in training camp before I start making any adjustments to Ladd McConkey. But Keenan Allen, if he looks good, Ladd McConkey could definitely have some more competition for targets. Taking a look after that, Trey McBride, third round, you could go with Trey McBride, but I don't really want to go with a tight end that early, even though I absolutely love him this year. Jaden Daniels, high upside, I'm not going with a quarterback in round 3. Tyreek Hill, I'm not really worried about him. I'm worried about his quarterback situation. The same thing I said about Devon Achane is the same thing about Tyreek Hill. Now, if you're okay being a little risky, then you can take a shot at Tyreek Hill in the third round. But if you're a little bit more risk adverse, or if you took some risk in the first round or the second round, maybe it's best to skip over him. Jackson Smith-Njigba, how is he going to look moving to the outside with Cooper Kupp? And does Sam Darnold keep the same magic he had in Minnesota last year? Breece Hall, it's realistically about the offense around him. Do I think Breece Hall is a good player? Yes. From a football standpoint, he's definitely one of the better running backs in the NFL. But when you take into the account he's the offense that he's in, he definitely takes a step back. So he's a little risky here as well. James Cook, there's talk about him being traded. What about the TD regression? A lot of questions about him. T. Higgins, is he going to stay on the field for an entire 17-game schedule finally? If he does, he's got 10 plus touchdowns in him for sure. Will there be some down games because of Jamar Chase? That could happen too. And then Garrett Wilson. Same concerns as Breece Hall because of the New York Jets offense and what they're going to do this season. But for round 4, who are the guys that I'll target over a lot of these guys in round 3? Alvin Kamara, Terry McLaurin, Kenneth Walker, and James Conner. Let's start with Terry McLaurin because he's going to have the most questions. And I get it. I understand why. He's holding in right now, meaning he's at training camp and he's doing certain things, but he's really not getting physical right now because he's trying to get a new deal. And yeah, he's asked for a trade as well. He's not going anywhere. The only way Washington trades Terry McLaurin is if they were to do a deal like Tyreek Hill straight up, which was something that was brought up over on X and some other outlets as well, that there were some rumors that that could end up happening. I don't think it does. I don't think Terry McLaurin goes anywhere. I think they restructure a deal. I think he makes some money this season. And then I think Washington basically says, all right, we've had enough. And then they move on after that. But he's got the best quarterback that he's had in his entire career. So if you're talking about a ton of regression from his touchdowns last year, I don't really think that happens. Is there some? Possibly, but I think he's still a good candidate for 10 plus touchdowns. And the volume, there's no way that it gets worse than last season. I broke down Terry McLaurin and what Cliff Kingsbury has done in his offenses with the passing attack in a must-have wide receiver video last week. I'll let you reference that if you want to know more about it. For Alvin Kamara, the guy is going to see a ton of dump-offs, okay? He doesn't have the same juice on the ground anymore, but he's going to see a ton in the passing game. So once again, if you don't want to be like risk-adverse with Breece Hall, go with Alvin Kamara, because Alvin Kamara, because of his receiving upside, probably has a safer floor than a guy like Breece Hall every week, even if Breece Hall ends up having more upside himself because he's the main back and he's a lot better on the ground. You take a look at a guy like Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is another guy that I'll take over Breece Hall because I like the offense that he's in way more. Does he have more injury concerns than Breece Hall? Absolutely he does. He's missed a lot of times over the first 3 years, but I'll bank on him because Clint Kubiak in that offense is going to run the football a lot. And if you've heard the way that Kubiak and the Seattle Seahawks have talked about Kenneth Walker this season, you would think that they have pictures of him with hearts around his face hung up in his locker like a bunch of middle school girls. That's how much they love Kenneth Walker. As far as James Conner goes, I'm all on board with drafting James Conner. For as good as he did last season, his ADP is very fair. And if he performs even close to what he did last season, he'll outperform his ADP as well. But if you draft James Conner, you have to get Trey Benson to back him up. You have to handcuff James Conner. So if the injury bug does pop up this season, then you've got a guy that can step in and give you the same type of value right away. But all these guys here in round 4, I like them over players in round 3 and 4 at their current ADP. I think all 3 or all 4 of these guys actually could end up being way more consistent than some of the guys in round 3. But this is where we start to get ahead of the game, because once you start drafting a round ahead of ADP, that's when people may start catching on. So we've got to start being very vigilant and making sure that we get our guys sooner rather than later. I get it. You don't trust Aaron Rodgers. You don't trust Arthur Smith. Maybe you just don't like DK Metcalf. But I'll tell you what, DK Metcalf is an alpha type wide receiver. He's got his flaws. A lot of wide receivers do. But that's why he's being drafted in the 5th round and not the 1st round. DK Metcalf in this offense, being the main guy, could end up seeing well over 100 targets this season. He could end up just being peppered with targets over and over and over. And even if the offense is inefficient at times, even if he deals with drops sometimes, give me all the volume I can get here in round 5. One of the reasons why, David Montgomery is still a guy that I'm discussing in round 5 as well. Do I want him as my RB2? Maybe not my RB2. I would much rather have him as my RB3, but I definitely would take him over a guy like Joe Mixon, who has a higher ADP than what David Montgomery does at times. Joe Mixon to me is not a guy that I am messing with. I want to stay away from him, and David Montgomery gives me way more safe floor than what Mixon does, considering we don't even know when Mixon is actually going to play this season. So the fact that he's going above David Montgomery right now, kind of crazy. For DK Metcalf, I'll take him over Rashee Rice. I like Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice was a breakout candidate for me last year. I had him as a must-have wide receiver last year. And if you drafted him, you loved the first few weeks of the season. And then Patrick Mahomes decided to try and take him out. He's gone for the rest of the season. Now he's got a pending suspension as well. And with all those question marks, I'm just going to probably be out on the guy, especially at this current ADP. I think there is a ton of value in the 6th round as well this year. Several guys here that I don't mind targeting. DeAndre Swift. If you don't want anything to do with DeAndre Swift, I absolutely get it. I understand. But he's going to be the lead back in an offense that should be a whole lot better than what it was. Could you get taken to the woodshed here in the 6th round by drafting DeAndre Swift? Absolutely. But again, as long as you're drafting him as like your RB3, then you may not need to worry about it. Just make sure you got a couple of backs behind him that you feel like could fill in if Swift doesn't end up working out. TreVeyon Henderson, he's lighting up camp right now, and from everything we're hearing, he's going to be a big part of the game plan, which we figured he was going to be a part of the game plan. Clearly, they drafted him in the 2nd round, but Ramondre Stevenson still has a ton of money left on his contract. They're not just going to get rid of him, and they're going to still utilize him at times. But TreVeyon Henderson is doing enough right now that in round 6 as your RB3, especially in a PPR league, he could end up being a steal. Jameson Williams and his big play upside. He's another guy in round 6 to invest in as a wide receiver 3 type of player. I'm all on board for that. Tony Pollard. If you don't want to risk it with a DeAndre Swift, if you don't want to risk it with a TreVeyon Henderson, then there's no risk at all in Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard could end up being the vanilla ice cream of 2025 running backs. You like him, but you feel like you could have some mix-ins. You feel like your ice cream could be a little bit better than what it is, but you don't necessarily hate it either. Tony Pollard's going to have a really solid floor all season long. George Pickens and Calvin Ridley right here back to back. I love the upside that both of these guys present. Just like Jameson Williams, I think these guys are on the same level where if you draft either of them as a wide receiver 3, you're not really going to hate it because the upside they present every single week will be something that you want to consider in your lineup. But if you start 3 wide receivers and you put one of these guys here, even if they have a little bit of a down week, it probably doesn't kill you as your wide receiver 3. Now, all of these guys in the 6th round, I am taking them not just over other guys in the 6th round, but some of the 5th round players as well. Rashee Rice and Joe Mixon, we already talked about both of those guys. Devontae Smith is a guy that's going in the 5th round. So if you want to spend a 5th round pick on, let's say, David Montgomery, if you want to be a little safer at the running back position, you're going to miss out on Devontae Smith. But you could get the same type of upside from Jameson Williams or Calvin Ridley or George Pickens a round later. And that's why I'm okay drafting him over these guys right here. RJ Harvey is a guy that is on a little bit of a downward trend for me right now. It came out yesterday that essentially RJ Harvey maybe has some things that he needs to clean up. And I included him in the best picks of every round video. But now his ADP is starting to shift upward a little bit, even though the news in camp isn't really following that. RJ Harvey is a guy we need to keep an eye on. But then like wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, Ted McMillan, I would rather have some of these other guys over them. Ted McMillan may be way more beneficial if you're looking at a PPR league because he could see a decent amount of volume for a PPR scoring this season. Isaiah Pacheco, Aaron Jones. I'll risk it with Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, TreVeyon Henderson over both of those guys. Aaron Jones, a lot of injury concerns. If you draft Aaron Jones, you need to have Jordan Mason. But me personally, I'll go Jordan Mason a little bit later if I need to. And if Aaron Jones just isn't effective or misses time, Jordan Mason steps in and he has a lot of upside. He also should see a lot of work in the red zone as well. For Isaiah Pacheco, unfortunately, I think that his ADP keeps getting tied to the fact that he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. With the way he runs, with the way he plays, unfortunately, he just gets banged up a lot, and that risk has not been associated with a whole lot of upside when he's actually healthy over the last couple of years. On to the 7th round, and I know a lot of you don't agree with Chris Olave because you don't think they have a good enough quarterback to get him the ball. But here's the thing, they have 2 quarterbacks that can get Chris Olave the ball. Chris Olave is a guy that can win with routes all over the field. They have Rashid Shaheed that can go deep down the field, but Chris Olave is a route master. He's one of the better route runners in the NFL. Big thing for him is he just needs to stay healthy. But here's the thing, if you've drafted Chris Olave in the past and you're upset with how he's performed or the injuries or whatever it may be, that's because you had to typically take him like in the 3rd round. We can get him in the 7th round this year. That is a huge discount for the wide receiver 1 in New Orleans. And if Tyler Shuck ends up winning the job, honestly, he's not the worst quarterback in the world. He's greatly overlooked because he's almost on AARP and he spent 14 years in college. He was there longer than Van Wilder. If you know that reference, hit the like button for me and let me know in the comments below, because that's a little bit of a throwback. But for Rome Odunze, listen, if you're looking for some high upside action, Rome Odunze in the 7th round absolutely gives that to you. He would be the perfect wide receiver 3 if you went RB heavy and you also added like a tight end or a quarterback in the mix along the way. I love his upside in this offense. As long as there's enough time to throw the football for Caleb Williams, we should get it down the field, and he should be fine with those big plays. He was one of the best big contested catchers in all of college football just a couple of seasons ago. But these two guys, I'll take him over Tet McMillan. Again, I like Tet McMillan. He was my wide receiver 1 in and out last season. Lowest he was wide receiver 2 at any given time. But for Tet McMillan, I do like him enough that if you wanted to go with him, and again, a PPR league, I'm fine with it. I just don't know if he has the upside that we would like. Jalen Waddle is another guy that I'm basically out on in this point. A lot of it's tied to Tua. We just haven't seen the upside from him that we would need. Chris Godwin's always banged up. He's coming off of an injury. We don't know when he's going to play. Jordan Addison is suspended for 3 games. So when you take a look at these 2 wide receivers in front of them, they might be better discounts. In the 8th round, I'm focusing on one guy right now, and that's Evan Engram. I really like Evan Engram this season. I think he's going to be a big part of the Broncos offense, and I think he's going to be such a big part that he is going to hurt Courtland Sutton, which, yes, I saw all the comments yesterday. I'm cooking up something in the background to give you a pretty detailed Courtland Sutton video coming up soon. For Evan Engram, though, I'm going to take him over Travis Kelce. I'm going to take him over Mark Andrews. He's a way better value than either of those guys right now. And while Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews may still be good this season, the amount of volume that Evan Engram could see for the discount he's being taken at, I'll absolutely draft Evan Engram higher than his current ADP. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching right now, we are closing in on 250,000 subscribers. And that is a goal that we absolutely want to blow out of the water this season. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed right now, please hit the subscribe button for us. I guarantee that at the end of the season, it'll be one of the better decisions that you made when it came to fantasy football. Heading into round 9, the main guy that I'm looking at right off the bat is Jordan Mason if you're still looking for some depth at the running back position. I already talked about him when I mentioned Aaron Jones earlier, but Jordan Mason is the perfect complement. And keep in mind, the Minnesota Vikings traded for Jordan Mason and then gave him a contract. So clearly, they wanted him on the roster and they thought he would be a good fit. But if Aaron Jones misses any time whatsoever, Jordan Mason could end up being a top 15 running back. And this late in the draft, that's a lot of value. Dak Prescott, when he's healthy for 16 games or 17 games, he is a top 12 quarterback. So if you want top 12 upside from the quarterback position and you want to wait until round 9, let's absolutely roll with Dak Prescott. And then Matthew Golden, I mean, if you watch this channel, you're probably heavily invested in Matthew Golden. The best thing about him is he's going in the 9th round. So if he doesn't work out, doesn't matter. You're going to end up using other guys anyway. But if Matthew Golden does work out in round 9, he's going to be one of the biggest draft assets that you added to your team all season long. So who am I drafting these guys over? It is a long list of players, essentially the entire 8th and 9th round. Deebo Samuel. I mean, yep, I like Deebo Samuel in that offense. Don't get me wrong, but I'll take Matthew Golden to be the wide receiver 1 potentially for Jordan Love over Deebo Samuel this late, especially considering how much I like Terry McLaurin. Quinshon Judkins, we're waiting to find out what's happening with him and his battery case. I can't believe he's still being drafted this high right now. He hasn't even signed a contract. He's not even officially a member of the Cleveland Browns yet. Kyler Murray, I'll take Dak Prescott over Kyler Murray and some of the inconsistencies we've seen with him, even with the upside that we see on the ground. Stephon Diggs coming back from injury, I'll take Matthew Golden and his upside this late. Cooper Kupp, he's dealt with injuries. He has not looked like the same player. I'll take Matthew Golden over him. Travis Etienne may not even be the main running back this year in Jacksonville. I'll take the risk with Jordan Mason over Travis Etienne. Jacoby Myers, there's going to be a ton of targets going to Brock Bowers. They're going to run the football an awful lot. For me, I'll risk it with Matthew Golden over Jacoby Myers. Juwan Jennings, he's dealing with an injury. He wanted a new contract. I'm out on him. Jaden Reed, he had 10 dropped passes last season. He had almost half as many targets as Jamar Chase and the same amount of dropped passes. Brock Purdy, give me Dak Prescott with his weapons in Dallas over Brock Purdy. Cam Scatabo, right now I'm not out on Cam Scatabo, but he's dealing with an injury now, and that's something to keep an eye on. Khalil Shakir, he's also dealing with an injury. Give me the upside of Matthew Golden. Ricky Pearsall, I'll take the upside of Matthew Golden over a guy that we really don't know exactly what his role in the offense will look like. Justin Fields, I'll definitely take Dak Prescott over Justin Fields. Justin Herbert just lost Rashawn Slater today. That's a big hit to this offensive line. I like Justin Herbert. That's probably going to be still more of a run-first offense. And in the 10th round, I'm going with J.K. Dobbins. He's listed number 1 on the Denver depth chart. It looks like he's going to be the starter by a mile as it is right now. And as long as he stays healthy, with as good as he looked with the Chargers last year, he could look just as good with Denver this year. And 2 guys I already talked about taken in round 9, Travis Etienne and Cam Scatabo. J.K. Dobbins shouldn't be going after either of those guys right now, so you can plan on drafting J.K. Dobbins a little bit early as well. Headliner Nation, hopefully you appreciated this video, and hopefully you're hitting the like button right now on our road to 250,000 subscribers. Make sure you get your draft guide, make sure you become a member, make sure you gear up for the season, and you get ready to dominate all of your fantasy leagues. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.